Hey everybody, this is Ben with Devslopes.com, and in this video we're going to do a couple of housekeeping things that need finished up before we can try building out our game to an actual device and testing it out there. Are you excited? Because I am. The first thing we need to do is we need to go and fix a problem with our screen cannon. Now, right now, if we press play and then we tap on our screen, it's not actually going to fire. And the reason for that is the object reference is not set to an instance of an object, which right now doesn't make sense. But if we go to our screen cannon script here at line 56 in fire shot, it'll make a lot more sense. So let's scroll down in our project inspector to the screen cannon script. Double click on the screen cannon script to open it in your IDE. And if we scroll down to line 56, we've got if current ammo is greater than 0 and not event system.current is pointer over game object. Those are our two parameters for this if statement. Now we know current ammo is assigned, which tells us the event system is not. Typically, when you create a UI canvas, the event system is set up with it. However, since we imported ours as a prefab, it doesn't exist. So let's head back to Unity, stop running so that our changes stay. And then here, just at the root of the main game, we're going to right click and say, create UI event system. And there we go. That's it. Now let's try pressing play and see if that's any better. Now, as we just saw, while I was clicking around, nothing was shooting out of our screen cannon. Well, that's expected behavior because right now we're hovering over a UI element. So let's get rid of this UI root for just a second, continue play, and we're going to tap on the screen. Cool. It's ever so tiny, but you can see the ball flying out of the center of our screen. Which brings us to our next problem, the size of the ball. Now, we brought down the size because we wanted it to match somewhat the paintball, but we may have gone a little overboard. So what we'll do now, we will left-click on the water ball prefab. We're going to go down to the scale, and where we've got it set to 0.025 on each of these axes, we're going to actually update this to 0.25. So let's take that 0 out of there and radically upgrade this guy. Now let's unpause and see how big this ball is. There we go. That's much more visible, but not to the point where it's taking over the screen. And just a cool note, it's kind of fun to watch the paint down here as our city changes colors. Let's stop running our game. And because we were manipulating the prefab directly, our changes were saved, so we're good to go on that front. Okay, now that that's done, we have another thing we need to go fix. In our map route, at this spawn height for the tank factory, it's a little high. You may have noticed going throughout the tutorials that if we zoom up on the focus square here, sometimes the tanks that are being populated are actually getting caught on the focus square. Now, we don't want to mess too much with the physics of that. So instead what we'll do is we're going to drop it a little bit lower so it's still above our map, the map route that's populating, but definitely below the focus square. So let's go to map route, and in the tank factory script, we're going to drop this down to 1 as opposed to 2. A simple change, but it's going to make a world of difference. And then we're also going to up this spawn rate, and we're going to set it to 5 instead of 1, so that a tank spawns every 5 seconds instead of every second. We'll also drop the spawn radius down to 0.5 instead of 0.6 to help things from falling off the screen for now. And one other thing that we haven't really used so much is our game manager. So we're going to go implement the game running Boolean from our game manager in a couple of places to make sure that things aren't happening that we don't want happening until the game starts. For example, if we scroll down to the tank factory and double-click the tank factory script, it'll open in our IDE. Going down to the spawn enemy coroutine, we've got while true, so it's an endless loop. This is super important because it starts at the very beginning, and we always want it running, always want it spawning enemies, unless the game hasn't started. So we're going to wrap this instantiate declaration inside of an if statement. If GameManager.instance.GameRunning, and then we'll just highlight that, cut it, and paste it in there. And now it's only going to spawn the enemies if the game is running, which is expected behavior. So let's save that. And we'll go back to Unity. And we're going to visit our friend the screen cannon one more time. So double-click the screen cannon script. And scrolling down to the fire shot function, we're going to add a really simple portion to this function. Up here at the top, we're just going to put in a safeguard and say if not game manager dot instance dot game running return. And that's it. What that'll do is if the game manager's instance isn't running, it'll just return and it won't bother with any of this other code. So save this script, and optionally, we could set that game running to the replenish ammo. In fact, why don't we do that? Let's say if game manager dot instance dot game running, and we're going to go ahead and grab this current ammo and cut it and paste it into here. So this whole line that says current ammo equals mathf.min, current ammo plus 1, max ammo, it'll go inside of here so that the actual regeneration only takes place if the game manager is currently running. And then if not, it'll yield return new, wait for seconds. Be sure, as you're doing these, to not include this yield return new, wait for seconds, and then whatever time inside of this if statement. Otherwise, you'll create an endless loop and it'll actually crash Unity. So let's save and head back to Unity. And then you don't have to follow along with this part, but just to kind of give you a proof of concept of what we just did, let's bring up the size of this window a bit. And I'm going to go into the game manager script. So I double-clicked the game manager script. And I'm going to come to this private bool game running equals false. And I'm going to temporarily serialize this field. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be temporary. We can just leave it serialized. And let's go ahead and serialize game started as well. And while we're at it, we'll serialize the score field as well. That way we can check and make sure that the UI manager is running and that the score is updating properly. So let's save that script. Head back to Unity. And I'm going to click on the AR tabletop kit just to make sure, yep, those are perfectly fine. Awesome. And I'm going to bump the score up to 500. And let's see what happens. I'm going to press play. And as you can see, our world has populated. It's existing back there, floating away. And looking at the hierarchy, we're seeing that no tanks are being generated, which is exactly what we want. Now, let's go and change game running to true and see what happens. Our score is 500. Our water balloons are now generating, and tanks are showing up. Perfect. And we can now shoot from the screen. But only as many water balloons as we've got. How cool is that? I think it's really cool. So let's drop this score back down to 0 where it belongs. And we will save. And for the very basics, that's really everything we need. I think we're now ready to build out this game and deploy it to a device and give it a test. That is super exciting, you guys. I know you've been waiting for that for, well, the entire section, but we're finally there. So great job following along. I'm excited to see this thing run, and I know you are too. So let's move on. This has been with devslopes.com, and we'll see you next time.